6:30, call the meeting to order. Certify compliance with the open records law.
Yes.
Roll call, please.
Councilmember Hooker.
Here.
Councilmember Kavanaugh.
Here.
Councilmember Menke.
Here.
Councilmember Raisler.
Here.
Councilmember Weisenbeck.
Here.
Councilmember Weisapple.
Here.
All six are present.
Next, we'll have the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge of Allegiance.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Would somebody like to make a motion to adopt the agenda? It is an amended agenda. There was a change made to it, so it would be approving the amended agenda.
Make a motion, we approve the adopted or amended agenda.
Second.
We have a motion and second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. It'll be, when we get a little bit later in the meeting, I'm actually going to ask to take something in a little different order. And the reason why, I just think it makes more sense after the amendment, or to amend the agenda and so on. But when I get to that point, we'll line it up the way that I think it'll work out the best. Next, we have public comments. Anybody who would like, the floor is now open for anybody who would like to speak to the council on any issue, one that's on the agenda or not on the agenda. Please identify yourself for the record.
Hello, my name is Terry Schoonover. I live between Alma and Cochrane, down the river. And as some of you probably know, we have new electoral legislative maps now that we'll be using here in August and November. The new 29th district runs from Trempealeau, most of Trempealeau County, all of Buffalo, all of Pepin, and most of Pierce County. I am going to be running as a candidate for the State Assembly District 29. So I just wanted to introduce myself to the group here. I made a commitment to try and get to every town, city, and village council meeting, board of supervisors. This is it's a long district. And if anybody's got a good deal on a set of tires, I'm gonna need them by the time this is over with. But anyway, just I want to, I guess, understand what some of your concerns are and issues. So I've been learning a lot. If there's things that we can do in Madison, I'd like to be aware of that. So I'm gonna stick around after the meeting. If anybody's got any questions, you can let me know. I did give Angela my card with, got a good website out there, and if you want to find out a little bit about me and the issues, I'd welcome you to go out and check it out. So thank you.
More money for roads and infrastructure.
That's it? Okay.
It'll do something like that. You said your last name was Schoonover?
Schoonover, yep.
Not related to Jay Schoonover? Used to be.
No, I don't think so, but it's kind of an unusual name. So.
He used to be on this body for about 35 years. So.
Oh, well then, maybe I know.
I'm not saying about Anyway, thank you for coming. Okay, public comments are still open for anybody who would like to speak to the council. Speaks. Okay. No scheduled appearances. Next, we move on to the consent agenda. The following matters may be acted upon by the city council utilizing a single vote. Individual items which any member wishes to address in greater detail or as a separate item on the regular agenda may be removed from the consent agenda upon the request of any council member. First, we have the minutes from the regular city council meeting from May 8th, 2024. There's no other bartender's license for that. Picnic license for the Drain Improvement Group for Fun Fest from June 7th to the 9th at Memorial Park. Temporary bartender's license for Michael K. Norby Jr., Mark R. Chilson, Catherine M. Asher for Fun Fest from June 7th through the 9th, 2024. And the street closure request for the Fun Fest and for the Fun Fest Fun Run. I'm assuming that's the Fun Fest parade and everything. So anyway, would somebody like to make a motion concerning the consent agenda?
I'll make the motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say no. It's approved. Next, we move on to the business agenda. Mayor's report. Just a few things to talk about. Mention that we just got notification. Anybody interested in the league conference is coming up in October. The 23rd to the 25th. It will be in Madison this year. And we can do the early bird. If probably in June, we're going to ask if attendance to make sure we can get any rooms. But again, June 23rd to the 25th, out on John Nolan Drive on the west side of
You say
Madison.
June?
October, you meant October.
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 We're going to ask you in June to go in October, if anybody's interested.
Okay.
Okay. I'd like to congratulate the Durant Fire Department and all the great people that put on their event this past weekend. Was there and had some good chicken, talked to a lot of people, so on. I think we're probably going to hear a little report on how well it went. And again, but congratulations to the fire department, all the personnel and so on, putting on a wonderful event for the community. Coming up later in the meeting, we did have a Council President Travis Hooker and I met with some members of the library board. It is an item on the agenda a little bit later, and we will be discussing about what they're looking to do. I'd like to say congratulations to the group that put the Civil War event on. It was nice. I did get there and had the opportunity to speak to some of the folks, and I know they had 100 plus students or so. I think they were talking 120, 130 students that came through and at the old Courthouse Museum in the square there. I thought that went really well. Also, congratulations to Advent Health as we had the ribbon cutting for the new ambulance garage. Had a nice crowd there for everybody from the contractors to a number of other partners and a number of other folks that obviously take advantage, and it's definitely will help them. And I know also the ambulance staff was talking about how nice it is to have a nice way that's big enough, easy access to make sure that they can treat people as quickly as possible. I'd also like to remind everybody Memorial Day services will be coming up Monday. The big one here in town, of course, is at 10:30. That will be in over Memorial Park. There's also a list. They also go to a number of the cemeteries around the area. But again, the event over at Memorial Park will be at 10:30 on Monday morning. That's all I've got. Any questions? Hearing none, nothing came off the consent agenda. We move on to the administrator's report. Administrator Rasmussen.
Couple items as well. Kind of the main thing that I wanted to bring you up to speed on, and this is, from the standpoint of, governments can work together and so can citizen groups. Obviously with our pool being constructed this summer, we knew we would not have access for the local kids for swimming lessons. I think Ms. Fisher with the newspaper had an article last week regarding area pools that might put on, might be some options for them. But maybe a little more proactively, we were contacted first by the Pepin County Health Department, Heidi Stewart and Jessica Schroth, to say that potentially they had contacted the Ellsworth Pool, and with some money that the health department still had, I believe, from ARPA funding, they were willing to pay for bus transportation with Poppy to transport Durand area children to the Ellsworth Pool for swim lessons around the July 4th, early July. Basically, the swim club jumped in and said that they would provide chaperone services for the children, and I volunteered city staff to basically collect registration like we always have in the past. So basically, we just put it on our website this morning that for basically $30 a child, up to 48 kids on the bus. But again, if the parents want to transport them, obviously they still have access to that as well. To have swimming lessons, all levels, at the Ellsworth Pool in early July. So again, we hope that
And
that's
he
gonna
did
be-
ask me before he.
Yeah, I was gonna say, before.
I said, yeah, I
the
did
mayor,
before.
yeah. And again, no cost to us, just staff time to collect the registrations.
Is there any sort of liability forms that are being signed off by the parents?
So we asked Poppy, because again, from the standpoint of if they required any, and they did not, they're fully insured, obviously, and they apparently don't have anything for the schools either, because that was one of the first things we asked, and
So will the parents be signing some sort of forms for the
yes,
pool?
that basically that they authorize their children, and so again, that's part of the registration form, but yeah, and I did also contact our insurance agent. Technically, if the busing is supported by the county, and there's a waiver by the parents to allow the kids to go, they were fine with it.
Okay.
So. Yeah, so good, hopefully that's a good turnout and a good piece. The administrator search obviously continues. Those videos are coming in. Just a reminder, I was looking ahead here for next meetings. Just a reminder that there is a meeting scheduled next Wednesday, looking over your shoulder, Angie, 29, at 5:30, correct?
Yes.
Yeah, 5:30, to review the videos of the semifinalists. So just a reminder of that, and those are coming in.
And the agendas are on the table.
And I'm sorry. the
Yeah,
agendas
your
are on the
agenda
table.
next Wednesday is on your agenda.
And finally, it's that time of year again where we're getting a lot of phone calls on length of grass, weeds. You know, we have a couple of houses that have been, I would say abandoned, but empty for a while. So getting a lot of calls on those. Unfortunately, we anticipate that we're probably gonna have city crews mowing some of them, probably tomorrow. If that works out, tomorrow or Friday, because it's been that long, we've got no contact. We don't like doing that, it's a lot of money, and they don't pay it, we put it on the tax roll. So we strongly encourage residents to just take care of their own mowing and weed issues. And if nothing else, I mean, for the, obviously, the courtesy of your neighbors, and just to help make the city look better. So I appreciate everyone's cooperation there. So I will save the rest of my comments till later in the meeting.
Okay.
We're coming right up.
Any other questions for the city administrator? Hearing none, we move on to discussion possible action regarding resolution 2404, a resolution authorizing the city of Durant to borrow $550,000 from some Security Financial Bank for the purpose of financing city capital projects, including the 6th Avenue project, the pool, and fire vehicles. As you know, we've basically, before we officially said, had the city administrator move forward with this, this is the official resolution. He also included in his notes to everybody about a few concerns, and I'll let him report, because he's gone through and met with the bank on Monday.
Yep.
And I think we've ironed those things out and explained exactly what exactly happened with them.
Okay, so yeah, as I put in my notice, when the agendas went out on Friday, I had gotten the forms from Security Financial late Wednesday, basically when we had our special meeting on the administrator search. So I didn't look until Thursday morning. I had some questions pertaining exclusively to the timing of when the city would take the money, especially as it pertains, well, to the next one. But same with the $550,000, that is, the majority of which will be used for the 6th Avenue construction. Obviously, that's not starting until June. First payment won't occur until the end of June, so from the standpoint of, just wanted to make sure that essentially we were treating these loans, that we can take the money as needed, and that the interest wouldn't basically start accruing until that happened. And the bank representative, when I finally got a hold of her and talked to her on Monday, assured me that that was the case. Again, so the first one is, again, pretty straightforward. It's looking to finance 3 projects, 6th Avenue, in the neighborhood of $235,000. The buy-in for the fire vehicles, that remember was part of the ladder truck agreement, and we'll talk about that a little bit more later in the meeting, of how that transpired and some history on that as well. But that payment has to be made before we take ownership of the ladder truck. And Jamie, that's still roughly July, sometime before the end of July is.
End of July, yeah.
Okay.
Maybe the 1st of August.
Okay, so we have to make that payment yet. And then our final commitment for the swimming pool, and even on that piece, depending on how things play out, because as you're aware, we already have $775,000 set aside in fund balance for the pool project. So this covers the remaining $225 of our commitment. Hopefully, we don't have to get there from the standpoint of hopefully maybe we get some more donations from vendors on the project, and so it's a little variable, I guess is what I'm getting at. And so there's some variability in when we collect the money on these loans, and I thank Security Financial for that arrangement. This is the first time since I've been here that we borrowed, that it wasn't on the open market or at the state trust fund loan. So little different process, but again, I thank them for their willingness to work with us and some help to make sure those interest rates are as low as they possibly can be, or the interest we pay is as low as it can possibly be.
And you're kind of saying it's almost like a line of credit. If you
It
will.
is, man, exactly,
You're not paying-
Yeah.
And even more so when we talk about the million, that truly is a line of credit, and depending on when we get that final payment from that large donor. Yeah, so that's exactly the way what they're really spelled out as.
Yeah, and we want to be in the situation where we're not paying any interest if we don't have the money yet, and then we're only going to pay it and then when we pay it back. So we obviously, as long as that worked out fine, and I was like, well, this is what we were looking for,
Yeah.
to be able to reach these reach these goals. Again, as we said, and out of the 550, which is the one that the first one we're talking about here, is some of that we hope not to have to use.
Correct.
You know, only use what we have to. That's the number we think, the maximum we would be at, but again, obviously, we hopefully use as less of it as possible. Okay? Any questions? If not, would somebody like to offer the resolution?
I'll offer resolution 2404.
Is there a motion?
Make a motion, we approve resolution 2404.
Is there a second?
Second.
And a second. Okay. The resolution 2404 has been offered. There's been a motion and there's been a second. It is on the floor for any other consideration. Any other questions, comments, or concerns? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Councilmember Hooker.
Yes.
Councilmember Raisler.
Yes.
Councilmember Menke.
Yes.
Councilmember Kavanaugh.
Yes.
Councilmember Weisenbeck.
Yes.
Councilmember Weisapple.
Yes.
All six in favor.
Okay. Next, we're moving on to resolution 2405. Discussion possible action regarding this resolution. A resolution authorizing the city of Durant to borrow up to $1 million from Security Financial Bank for the purpose of financing the Durant Community Swimming Pool project prior to the final donations, private donations being received. Again, as I said, I think the administrator already explained this. They're both set up similarly for us, but again, this will bridge any gap for us at the end of the project until everything is put together, with the intention of this being as short a period as possible.
Correct, yeah. And this one should be only a period of about 6 months.
At the absolute.
most, yeah. Again, with that final payment coming either in '24 or no later than January 31st of '25 from that generous private donor.
Okay. Any questions on it? If not, would somebody like to offer the resolution?
I will offer resolution 2405.
Is there a second? Or is there a motion?
I'll make the motion to approve resolution 2405.
And is there a second?
Second.
You second it?
Sure.
Yeah, okay. The newer person, let's.
I heard her voice, so.
Okay, the resolution's been offered. There's been a motion and a second. Is there any more discussion? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Councilmember Weisenbeck.
Yes.
Councilmember Hooker.
Yes.
Councilmember Kavanaugh.
Yes.
Councilmember Menke.
Yes.
Councilmember Raisler.
Yes.
Councilmember Weisapple.
Yes.
All six in favor.
Oh, by the way, something else I forgot to mention. It was all in your packet, of course, about FunFest, and that FunFest included a map of how they're going to lay out over here. I would like to publicly thank the DIG group for working hard to make sure that we could maintain this downtown, and then all of those adjacent property owners who stepped up. And I know it's going to be a little different setup this year for FunFest, but again, that we can keep it all right in this downtown area. So I was going to mention that in my report, but thank you to DIG for working hard to get this put together, and all the area, the other property owners around there that have graciously allowed them to use that. So I wanted to make sure that I got that on the record. Next, we have discussion possible action regarding the library board applying for a flexible facilities grant. Okay, did we have copies of the?
We didn't have a copy of it.
Did you have
Everything
those?
was,
Did you?
no, I never got a copy of that. It was just linked online.
It was just linked online. Did you have another copy of the? Did Travis have? I know I left mine at home, that's why I just remembered I.
I just got the one that was printed out, wasn't the actual application.
No, it wasn't the actual.
So put it in the cabinet.
Okay, and that's fine. And I don't know, did one of you want to speak on behalf? Basically what it was is we were approached by members of the library board. There is some grant money that's available. That is, it's through, this is through the Build Back America, or is this the program? Yeah, and program. And this is specifically for community centers and libraries and so on. There's $1 billion some, but I believe in the state of Wisconsin there's 700 107 million available. And the library board feeling with the squeeze in space and those types of things, to at least apply for something that would be a future project. Again, what the request is here, just to allow them to apply for the grant. Now, I know you sent it to Cedar Corporation. Russ, did you get a chance?
Yeah, I got some information I can
Okay,
share with you.
why don't you go ahead and present yours and then we'll...
Okay. Yeah, as the mayor mentioned, this is a program through the federal government, the American Rescue Plan Act. It's called the Capital Projects Fund, Flexible Facilities Program. And in Wisconsin, the administration's been assigned to the Department of Administration, who we work with a lot on various grant programs, so we have a good working relationship. And as the mayor mentioned, there's 107 million provided to the state of Wisconsin. Eligible projects, as the mayor mentioned, includes the construction of new or renovation or expansion of existing libraries, community centers, or multi-purpose community facilities, and the purchase and or installation of digital connectivity technology, devices and equipment to provide high-speed internet services, including remote options that will directly enable work, education, and health monitoring in response to the COVID-19. So in addition to any new buildings or renovations of libraries and community centers, you have that portion where you have to put in that digital connectivity technology in order to qualify and score for the grant. So it's not just a library or community center improvement project. What they're doing is, if you remember during COVID, with children working from home remotely, or people that couldn't go to work, that had to work remotely, didn't have access to high-speed internet and so forth. If they're out in the rural communities and didn't have high-speed internet or broadband or something like that, federal government's trying to get those in the community, so if it happens again, people will have a place to go to, your community center or libraries, to access computers and high-speed internet to be able to work remotely or do your schoolwork remotely or whatever. Again, the two project categories are new facility or existing facilities. Maximum grant award is $4,250,000. The performance period, the construction would need to be completed by September 30th, 2026, started in July of 25. That's the big question we're running into as we talk to other communities and libraries are going after this. And the grant application is due July 11th. So very short time frame for both writing the grant and then completing the starting the project in 25 and completing it by September of 26. So
Because the
those
period
are
just started
some of the
last...
challenges.
It just started in April.
Yeah, it
The
just
very
came
time-
out in April.
It just came out in April.
Typical,
Yeah.
all the grant programs we get the application and you have 2 or 3 months to talk to people and line people up and have time to write the application. The key on this one is gonna be like any project, knowing exactly what the scope of work of the project is and having a good, accurate cost estimate. And then, hitting the various scoring points to score, so. So there need to be involvement with our grant writing staff and our architects and engineers in the office to be able to get everything done by the July 11th date. So you need to make a decision fairly fast if you decide to pursue this grant application. Because other item on the agenda, we're scrambling with Clean Water Fund applications that are due the end of June, and now this one, July and so forth. We can get to it, but the sooner the better to let us know. And if you decide to proceed with it, I can get a number from our planning staff in terms of what the fee would be to help the city and the library to apply for this funding.
In the best part, it's zero match, right?
Right.
Yeah.
And that's
Yep.
kind of,
Yeah.
Which also is gonna
it's
be a
very
pro
nice
and con,
program.
like,
Right. yeah,
awesome that there isn't a match, but
Right.
that also means every Tom, Dick, and Harry's gonna be going after.
Yeah, it's gonna be very competitive, you know, 107 million, you know, it sounds like a lot, but we'll talk a little bit about the Clean Water Fund and how many applications there, and, you know, the LRIP program, you know, there's all those programs, there's typically 600 applicants. I don't think we're gonna have that many in this program, but who knows?
Russ, does this program need a site plan or any type of engineering before you apply?
No, we'll just need to know the scope of work. There won't need to be any engineering or anything, but we'll need to have a good feel on the scope of work and cost estimates to make sure we have enough money in the grant. We're not leaving any grant money on the table if you do get funded.
And I went to the website, and I looked at it, and all these things are, you know, correct that we've talked about here. The other thing is, and I know each grant's a little bit different, is this something, if it would go forward, we would have to front the money and then get reimbursed, or we get reimbursed like some as we go along, as if a project was going? Do you know what the answer to that
I
is?
don't at this point, but it being federal programs, you know, that's similar to CDBG and the Safe Routes to School, the Surface Transportation Program, where you get reimbursed quarterly and so forth, so.
As you go, okay.
Yeah, the federal programs are typically, but are reimbursement as you're expending money and asking for reimbursement, but I need to confirm that with our grant people.
Need to confirm.
And I really almost have to believe it would be that way for libraries, because most libraries don't have a plethora of money in the bank,
Exactly.
so. Are we looking at it just purely a library? Or are we looking at like some sort of community center in addition to it?
Library / community center, I believe is what we discussed.
Jen, Lori, if you want to sort of address the vision that you guys had?
Go ahead.
My vision was more than just a library. Adding the community center, the senior citizen center, I guess it was, needs a lot of work. There's so many different health avenues that I would like to take for this building. Yes, I have about 5 different areas that I think could all benefit from a building like this. So no, not just a library.
I would also remind that I think there's availability for some mental health type things to go in,
That's
if there could
one
be
of the
satellite
biggest-
offices for like a mental, for a therapist to
Absolutely.
come down.
Yep, that's one of the biggest, and I believe the grant, so many of the scoring points, whatever you need to have, the health aspect has to be
Yeah.
included in that. So, yeah, that's only gonna grow, so, for sure.
And I know the question that came up about that, is there a possibility of working with the hospital? I mean, it would be our facility, this is a city-driven thing, so on and so forth, but would be able to work with, I mean, that was another question that came up in our conversation. I know that's what I had said. So basically, Russ, what you're
For
saying,
like what standpoint? Like as far
a
as?
place to build it,
Oh, gotcha.
because you need land, I mean, if you
Yeah.
build, or so on and so forth, would it work out? I mean, is there an avenue of working with them?
Okay.
And that's that type of stuff, yeah. Location and then working
Staff
together.
or.
Yeah, no, that's what I was thinking. As far as- So Russ, if you're looking at things, so basically need a scope of work, what exactly you want to build, community center to do this, this, and this.
Yeah.
Square footage, how much, and then that, you'll be able to put some price estimates together, what it's gonna cost to build something.
Correct, yes. Yep, some basic information.
And then you would all include in that the cost of equipping this type of building, so on and so forth, all that would be
Yep.
included.
Construction, furnishing, you know,
Not to put you on the spot, but, and I understand at the end of the day that this money can come back to us after we receive, if we would receive the grant. But the original cost, it's gonna cost to put this together prior to July the 12th, what's our,
it's probably, without having a number from our planning. staff,
yeah, I'm not holding you to an exact number. Yeah.
They're anywhere in the $5,000 to $7,000 range to pull the application together.
Okay, would the library board be willing to put that up to start with? I mean, if you get the money back, or how does this?
That'll be a board question,
Yeah.
you have to bring it to the board.
we have the money right now, as Scott knows, and I think you know too,
Sure.
in the fund balance. Um, Do we wanna lose that if we don't get the grant? No, but I think, you know, it's an opportunity. We're being pushed for space at the school, and it's working out. Lori's got a really good working relation with the school staff, and we figure it out as we go. But, and I've been a really strong proponent since the outset of the joint library, but, you know, that was 1996. A lot of things have changed since 1996. So, you know, if this would give us an opportunity for a standalone library, and again, like the community center aspect of it, I think it's a really good opportunity. I can't speak for the whole board, but I think it would be a good investment for the board to look at.
And and what we're talking about is the idea that this is just an opportunity to do more for the community. And that's the reason why the library board, correct,
Right.
is interested in doing it. I mean, that's what it comes down to.
We're kind of rearranging things now because of the space crunch and moving things around, and IFLS, which is our kind of a supervisory board for the library, was giving us some help with that and some ideas. And then they said, or maybe you should look at this grant. So we just felt, to do our due diligence, we needed to take a look at this as another option, so.
So would it be then the school, they keep all their books there and continue? Or would their books go with the library and it'd be off-site for them?
Right now, there's two separate, our
Yeah.
books are purchased, we would take all of our
Yeah.
books with us.
Correct.
Their books would, yes, they would keep all their books.
Okay.
Yeah.
So if this perfect world, this happens, future maintenance costs of the building, would that be the cities? Would that be?
Sure. Well, and again, it would be in the budget. The library board would be responsible for it. Just like now, instead of paying rent, that money would probably be used for upkeep of the building and those types of things.
I guess one thing if I add, if I could, is library boards in Wisconsin have a lot of power. And so again, when we talk about, and even to be real honest, I don't know that you needed our permission to apply, but thank you for, and obviously, and I know Mayor and Travis were appreciative of it. So from that standpoint, so it's the library's budget. Now, whether the city wants to allocate more money, it's up to them in the future, but the question of it certainly is a big issue, because I think it's fair to say it would be significantly more than basically the $20,000 that we pay in rent to the school right now when you start talking about operating costs, utilities and the like. From that standpoint.
If there was a building that had a library, community center and so on, could we find certain services that would rent to help pay for some of the cost of operating a building? You know what I'm saying?
With the library board, because again,
Yes.
the other side of this is, I think, I've only been involved in one library building project, but the library itself was owned by the library board. It was not owned by the city. So back to, I think that's something that would have to be determined as part of the grant of how is that working out? And so then again, the library board had control of the building and how things would function. Obviously, again, I'm not suggesting that this is, City Hall would have no involvement, or the city council, I should say. But again, just to keep that in mind, that this probably would be a library owned building. Oh, sorry.
So, again, so what the library board is basically saying, that they would like to go ahead and at least apply for this grant. And as we're sitting there saying, we are about getting Cedar Corp to get some help, because obviously if you're gonna apply for it, you wanna put your best foot forward. Instead of just slapping something on paper and so on, and obviously, and as you said in our conversations, is that we need somebody who's a grant writer, we need somebody who's got the ability, and obviously Cedar Corp can do that.
We certainly don't have, anyone on the library board with the expertise to do that.
And again, as we said, that usually as we do with ours, grants, writing or anything, so that all that cost is included in a project. So gradually we get covered or it comes out of the total, so. Anyway,
I
so,
guess, just thinking down the road, and you never know if you're gonna get it or not, but, then if you do, there's just a lot of questions about where to go and space and, and so as a library board member, we need help in that
Sure.
aspect too. So-
and generally, whatever Cedar Corp puts together for a plan, even though it's, that's now our information that we get by paying for that. So if it's something that, if there's another opportunity to do something, that information is still belongs to the city, quote unquote, or belongs to the library board or whatever, so on and so forth. Just like our Madison Street project that didn't go off, we've still done all the planning for it, it's still put it on the shelf, but we're gonna try to, work with it, that type of thing.
When's the next library board meeting? 2 weeks?
Second Monday in,
Second.
yeah.
June.
So basically, no matter what we do, they would have to call a special meeting to try to also approve application for the grant.
Well, I think if we approved it tonight to say, move forward, and then Russ, with Cedar Corp, you would get together of what what you would need,
Yep.
and then what it would cost are, and so on and so forth. At that point, to say, to go to the library board, to come back and say, well, this is what we're looking at, and then, and about moving forward, as you said, it's a very tight window, but you said you think you can do it. But again, as we said, so tonight the approval would be go forward, and then, we would say, Cedar Corp, go ahead and take a look. Start doing some planning, go back to the library board and have them agree on that. And then, of course, by then Russ would have an idea about the cost of the grant writing and the planning and those types of things.
But that's what we would need approval
Yeah.
from the board for that.
Yeah. And at that point, we would,
But just to clarify, you need approval from the library board.
From the
Yes,
library
yeah,
board.
from the library, correct, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know that there's any approval that's necessary back here,
Right.
unless you wanted the city to help pay for some of Russ's costs. That would
Would
be
you?
otherwise you'd be on your own.
We'd love that if you would do that.
But
Well, but we wouldn't be able to act on it until the 12th of June, so I mean, that's,
I'm paying
yeah,
something.
correct.
I mean, we can act, because we've got it on this to say that we support the,
Oh, without,
Because we-
yeah, I mean, that's.
that
what
we support
that's-
the effort to apply for the grant.
Right, but
That's
not,
basically what we're doing.
but not to fund any portion of Russ's work. That is not on the agenda.
Correct.
Yeah. So basically, that's basically what we have on the agenda would be just to approve to go forward with applying for the grant, that's.
So if we're able to get a cost estimate
What?
to apply for the grant,
Well, I think we have, I think there's something about it to be approval of the grant.
There might be something in the provision of the grant, again, I do.
It's just, because we're still gonna be part of this, one way or the other. And we're talking about the budget, I get that, but
I'll make a motion, we proceed with the approving of the library board applying for a flexible facilities program grant.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and second to go forward with applying for the fact, and is there any more discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye. Opposed say no? Okay. And Russ, if you could get that information and get it to Scott, then you can get it to the library.
I think Russ has been in direct contact already for it, so.
Oh,
Yeah,
oh,
you
okay.
can cut out the middleman.
Okay, cut out the middleman. Give us-
Yeah, I have her email.
Yeah, okay, so get it straight to, yeah. Okay?
so when you have a cost estimate, you will get that.
Yep, I'll email it.
Okay. Okay, thank you. Okay, next we're gonna move on to public safety, police report. Chief Ridgway.
Just a couple of quick things. We started our property maintenance stuff. Officer Logan Tulip's working on that. He sent out some letters. We got them sent out today. We're still going around and identifying more properties that, unregistered junk vehicles, garbage, things like that in people's yards. So we are identifying those properties and getting letters out to them, so. And then the other thing is just Fun Fest planning. Talked with Mike today a little bit more about that. I've been working with Katie Hooker on some of the 5K and fun run stuff, and just everything's going smooth with the Fun Fest planning. We'll get everything finalized with that on the open container side of things, and we'll get a meeting set with Mike on that as well. So everything's going smooth with the planning. all I have.
Any questions for police department? Okay, move on to discussion possible action regarding the Fun Fest special event open container application from June 7th, 2024, from 11 a.m. and ending on June the 10th, 2024 at 2 a.m. And as far as we know, we're
Everything's good with that. We'll do the organizational meeting the week of Fun Fest. He's gonna get back to me on some dates. Like I said, I talked to him today. He's gonna talk to the local bar owners and set up a date for that meeting. So I would need approval contingent on the planning meeting with the establishments.
And as far as the area that they're gonna be using, any different because of the Fun Fest setup, doesn't really affect,
No.
I mean, they're down,
Yeah, we'll have to discuss that for Blues when we move down below, but Fun Fest will be the same. It won't include River Street. This will be everything else.
everything else, okay. Okay, any questions? Hearing none, would somebody like to make a motion concerning the Fun Fest special event open container application?
I'll make a motion, we approve the Fun Fest Special Event Open Container application, June 7th, 2024, at 11 a.m., ending June 12th, 2024, at 2 a.m., pending the meeting with the bar owners.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and second. Is there any more discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Motion's agreed to. Okay, without any objection, this is where I'd like to move the fire department down to right in front of the closed session, and we can get through ambulance and public works. And so again, without objection, I'm gonna take item C and move it down to right before the closed session, number 8. Okay, ambulance, Director Bingle.
I don't really have much. Logan Mason, our new EMR, has been out training. Everything's going well. Otherwise, I don't know where I can right now.
Okay. Any questions for ambulance? Say thank you to you guys too, working on Saturday. I saw everybody, a lot of people up and out, so obviously thanks to all your crew and everybody that helped make that a successful event. Okay, next move on to Public Works Utilities, Engineers Report. Russ?
Yes, just real quick, a couple project updates. 6th Avenue East project will commence construction on June 10th. And that should be completed within a couple months. You have to have the project complete before school starts up the end of August, so they have a very aggressive schedule. Should get done before that timeline. The water filter plant design is ongoing. We're still on schedule, assuming you still want to apply for one of the other agenda items you have on Public Works, the Wisconsin DNR Clean Water Funding with a June 30th deadline date for completing approximate 90% plans to go with that application. And that's all I have. Matt will provide a construction update regarding the pool project. Any other questions?
Any questions just for the city engineer?
How much money is available for a grant for the Clean Water Act?
We'll talk about that on the
We
agenda
actually,
in 3.
we have an agenda item on it, so
Yeah.
we'll be able to go to that. But thank you. Good question, but, okay. Anything else again for city administrator, or for the city engineer? Next move on to Public Works Utility, Matt?
Yeah, other than the 3 items on the agenda, I promise I'll keep it shorter than my predecessor did, or my substitute did. Today we had 5th grade plant tours down at the wastewater treatment plant for part of Conservation Day. We put probably, 60 students through the sewer plant and gave them tours and talking about it. We're still working on the lift station pump, the prices. Should have some prices hopefully by the middle of next week. Had some companies coming in, measuring things out. The basketball court, as the mayor noted, I think last meeting is complete. They were a little under budget, they had some more donations. So we are going to be installing a couple concrete benches along the basketball court. that have also been donated. So we'll get the pads up for those, and then we can finish Harley raking and hydro seeding and getting the grass grown back there. So a couple more donations to benches around that court.
Is that
as well.
painted?
It will be painted. It's supposed to be, I believe, the first or second week of June, they'll be painting the arches and free throw line and stuff on there. So they had to wait like 60 days after the concrete in order to do it. Pool, good news, they were there today digging the foundation. They were, excuse me, half done with it when I was up there around that 2:30 time frame. Not sure if they got the whole thing dug today, but if not, they'll get it finished tomorrow. And then the concrete company will come in to start pouring footings. Not 100% sure if they're gonna get here this week after the rain. They got rained out on a couple jobs they might have to finish up, but I'll know a little bit more on if they're coming Friday or next Tuesday. So, but activity has started at the pool. We submitted all our stuff to the state for the pool questions that they had. We're still waiting for a response on that. But everything for the building is good to go. Other than that, that's all I have, unless you have any questions other than the next 3 items.
The seal coating on Washington, where's that at?
Oh yeah, sorry, seal coating on Washington. That got delayed last week to some mechanical issues. Put them behind by a few days. This week was delayed to weather. They called today asking if they could come Friday. I said no, kicked them off till next week after school's out. So it should be sometime next week.
How are we informing people? Is the only mode like on social media?
As of right now, the only mode is on social media, and the night before they'll be doing no parking signs, and the crews show up that morning, kind of knock on doors, inform the people that are around what's going on, which side of the road they'll be doing, give them kind of direction the morning of the actual project.
And there's about like a 3-hour time frame where once they start, they can't be driving on it?
Depends on the day, depends on the temperature. They say 3 hours, sometimes it's dry in 45 minutes to an hour, so it really does
But
depend.
hopefully
on
not
the-
longer than 3?
Hopefully not longer than, the longest they've ever had, they said, was 2.5 hours, so I'm telling everyone 3.
Okay.
Because if it's happened before, it'll happen here.
The only reason I ask, I had somebody down on, I wouldn't say a neighbor, but somebody on my street say they knew nothing about it and then like saw all the signs and were asking, and then they were like, oh my god, like how can I not like get in and out of my house for a part of a day, so.
So I talked to a lot of people up there personally already. A lot of them, are fine with it. Said it's better than the 9 months that we had to deal with construction 10 years ago. So they understood it. They understand the maintenance. So most of them have been reaching out to me here at City Hall.
One other follow-up too about the basketball court, talking with the Sportsman's Club. Once they do get it painted and it's all finalized, we'd like to do some sort of a ribbon cutting or something along those lines. And we said that they would probably do some stuff that, invite the kids, prizes and food or something like that. I said, great. The city, we make sure everybody had the chance to be there. They might be also get some of the youth basketball kids or high school basketball kids maybe to go and shoot around and to do something. But obviously need to get it painted and finished off so it looks really nice. And so we'll probably, later this summer, we're gonna do some event like that too. And obviously, thanks to the Sportsman Club and all those donors that have brought this
Is there gonna be any sort of memorial, like naming for it or anything?
No, it's not really a memorial of anything. It was just a donation from them. Talking to them, they had, as of right now, no plans to put a plaque or anything up. So if anything, it would just be like a donated by the Durham Sportsman's Club type of a plaque that might sit up there if they so desired to have one.
Okay. Any other questions for Public Works Utilities? Okay, next we move on to discussion and possible action regarding the safe drinking water loan application for the water filter treatment project. Who's?
Yeah, I can take this one. So part of the safe drinking water, the filter project, the DNR has a safe drinking water loan application. We've talked about it before. You apply, so you do an ITA, intent to apply, they score your project. Unfortunately, this project scored 68 points, which is probably the 270th position out of 500. Forget exactly what the number says, or 504, yeah. So we scored a little above the middle. Those scorings can be a little goofy, as some of those people that scored in 400s had like 6 projects on there, and you know they're not going to do all 6 of them. People apply for a lot of different things. They use those rankings to essentially determine how much principal forgiveness that you're eligible for. So if we apply for this, we could still be eligible for some principal forgiveness, but being that our score was low, the principal forgiveness might be gone by the time they get to our project. But we're still then eligible for a low interest loan, 1.5% to 2.5%, which is still lower than any market rate loan we're gonna get locally, state trust fund, going out on the open market. So our recommendation is to continue with the Safe Drinking Water Loan Program. It's about $6,500 to apply for the program. We won't know if we get any principal forgiveness until after the application and everything's been reviewed, but at minimum, we are eligible for a 1.5% to 2.5% loan.
Would that loan be it's not a general obligation, it would be a department, it would be a...
Yeah, that's one thing we talked about, and we probably have to look into that, because I have no experience with these type of loans. But being that it's, again, the PSC, Public Service Commission, is part of it, it's water. My thought is it's tied directly to the utility, so it would be exempt from our general obligation.
So part of the process is we'll have a 3-month review with the PSC for this particular project. So they'll be looking at a rate structure. Rates will be affected, and this project will end up getting paid back through the water department.
What's the life of what we have working right now?
The current filter was built in 1992. 2 cells are currently down. The backwash system of the cells are not currently working. There's cracks on the inside of the filter. The paint is chipping off. So the lifespan moving forward is basically 2025 when I want to do this project.
And if, at some point, if you don't do something, the state tells you to do something.
Yeah, at some point, we are going to start exceeding water quality. And then if we start exceeding water quality, then we're going to get, then the DNR will be knocking on our door. You're eligible for fines, you're eligible for lots of different things through the DNR. So we really don't want it to get to that point. Part of the reason that we score so low in the scoring, they take a lot of water quality issues, a lot of non-compliant issues, that all kind of goes into your scoring. A little bit of financial goes into your scoring. So sometimes cities like Durand that stay on top of their maintenance, have good water quality, maintain their stuff for as longevity as we have, score a little bit lower than the towns that essentially don't take care of their stuff as well as we have here. So it's kudos to our staff for the maintenance that they do every day and every year, but it also hurts us on some of these water quality type grants.
What was my next question?
I don't know, I'd like to answer it, bro.
I got a couple of Mayor, just Matt, if you could remind us what the projected cost of this project in next year's budget's going to be, and then maybe touch, when you talk about filtering, what are we filtering from again? What are drainage issues?
Yeah, the projected project cost of this is a little over $700,000. This is the only water filtration plant. It's a gravity sand filter plant. We filter out iron and manganese in this plant. This is also where we add the chlorine for disinfection. So this is the entire water treatment process before it enters the distribution system for drinking. We have to lower our iron from what is about a 0.5 down to a 0.03. We have manganese levels at anywhere from, depending on which well we're running, from 0.30 milligrams per liter to 0.50 milligrams per liter. That has to go down to 0.05 milligrams per liter. So this filtration process essentially does that. The water gets piped into the top of the filter. There's nozzles, spray nozzles in there that evenly disperse the water over top of some aeration, over top of an aeration basin. Probably a dozen or so of those of the 25 nozzles are either missing or broken. Then it goes through the aeration, then evenly disperses over 4 chambers of green sand and some anthracite, which filters out. We add the potassium permanganate, which filters out the iron and the manganese. Goes through those chambers and then gets pumped out of the bottom of the filter and then distributed out into the distribution system. So it's a complex operation. Like I said, it was built in 1992, so it's definitely lived its current lifespan, and it's in need of basically a rehab.
Did we just do some repairs on this recently, or was that something different?
Nope, something different. We've been talking about this for like a year and a half now.
So that is the same?
Yeah, it is the same one. Yeah, we technically started talking about this back in 2023. So for those of you that have been around Public Works, we have been talking about this project for a couple of years now.
So even though we scored bad because our maintenance was good, we still need new ones.
We still need to do that. We can't neglect doing that, so.
I mean, you aced last year's test, didn't you, as far as the DNR? Oh, we got A's or anyways, I don't know.
Yeah, that's the wastewater treatment plant. That'll be in next meeting's agenda.
Can't wait.
That was a field trip, Travis.
And by the way, back to my train of thought that came back to me. Now the question is, we've already approved that we're gonna go ahead and apply for this grant. Do we need to take action here that we're gonna do it, or?
No, we approved to apply for the ITA, the initial intent to apply to get the scoring.
Oh, okay.
Now we have to approve $6,500 to actually apply for to submit the actual application for the principal forgiveness or loan. It'll be one or the other, depending on the funding of all the other organizations.
And that was in our contract back in March, when you approved the design contract. We had a separate line item for this, but we were waiting to see what the scoring was and if the city wanted us to apply for it. So you're basically, approving if you want us to proceed with that application or not.
But even at the end of the day, if we don't get any loan forgiveness, and the thing about it is at that interest rate, we're gonna save enough on interest
Yeah.
that we'll easily get this money back.
Yeah.
Right, because this has to be done no matter what.
At some point, yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
At some point,
You
something
said
has
2025.
to be done. So currently, right now, if we go on the schedule that we are on right now, we'll be doing this project in February of 2025. As long as the design gets done here in the next 2 months, we get this application back, and we gotta submit to the DNR for review. We gotta submit to the Public Service Commission for review. Those are about 4-month processes. And then we can go out to bid in, say, the November timeframe for a February, March project. We want to do this project in the winter months, as this is all indoor work, so we feel we'll get, I say we'll get a good bid, and next thing I know, it'll be $200,000 higher, but we feel that we have the potential to get a better bid, being that it is in the winter time when people are looking for work like this in a heated building, so.
So worst case scenario, we don't apply, what's the lifespan on that filter that we have now?
6 months, year and a half.
Obviously, we're probably not gonna get anything towards the principal, ranking around half the field, so, but say we get nothing on the principal, we're guaranteed that low interest rate, guaranteed it.
You're
through the
guaranteed
program.
that rate, yes. The only thing you might not be guaranteed is the loan itself if all the money's gone by the time they get to your ranking. So, but you are guaranteed that 1.5% to 2.5%.
Yeah, the low interest loan money, there's enough in the fund, even though where you're scored based on our experience with this program, you will qualify for that low interest
For the
loan.
loan,
The big question is principal forgiveness, highly unlikely. But like Matt says, I mean, if you look at the 17-page list and the 500 some for example, there's several communities that have 3 or 4 multi-million-dollar projects. They might do one of them, Town of Campbell, French Island, and La Crosse. They have 3 project options for one project for 175 million between the 3 of them. They're only gonna do one of the options, so it kind of skews things, and, you don't know until you apply, and, a lot of people, even though they did the intent to apply, a good percentage of them won't proceed with a project this year. They'll reapply in the fall for maybe the same project next year or the following year.
So it's hard for us to tell you if we're gonna get any principal forgiveness,
Right.
because we don't know of these 500 projects, how many of them are actually gonna proceed with an actual application.
There is a lot more money, principal forgiveness. Pretty much when the bipartisan infrastructure law money came from the feds, that's where they put it in this fund, was the principal forgiveness. So they doubled or tripled the amount of principal forgiveness, but again, that triggered a lot of people applying for that through this cycle too.
So just kind of the math of it, so principal forgiveness would be gravy.
Yeah.
If we get 4 points better on a loan, 4 points on $700,000 for the first year is $28,000. We'd save $28,000 for $6,500.
Yep.
It's really a no-brainer.
Yeah.
Any more questions?
I'll make a motion to go ahead with the safe drinking water loan application for a water filter plant project for Cedar Grove.
A second.
Okay, did we want to put a max on, or the cost to apply, which is $6,500?
Not to exceed 60.
Not to exceed $6,500.
Yep.
You, as a second, you accept that? Okay. Okay, is there any more discussion? Hearing none, we need a roll call, please.
Councilmember Hooker,
Yes.
Councilmember Kavanaugh,
Yes.
Councilmember Menke,
Yes.
Councilmember Raisler,
Yes.
Councilmember Weisenbeck,
Yes.
Councilmember Weisapple,
Yes.
all 6 in favor.
Motion's agreed to. Next, we have discussion possible action regarding the income survey for the Madison Street CDBG grant application. Russ?
I can take this one too.
You take this one?
Go ahead, Matt.
CDBG grant application, the next process in the Madison Street project, Russ and I have been searching grant options for the past 6 months or so. We even actually looked into this facilities grant that the library was talking about, to see if there is any type of water sewer infrastructure involved into it as well. So the only thing that's really eligible to us is the CDBG grant for the project. The state does not allow you to piggyback grants, so we already got an LRIP grant for the street and general fund portion of the project. So every other grant now becomes ineligible for those eligible portions of our grant. So anything that's street related that was eligible for the LRIP grant is not eligible for any other grant. So CDBG is really the only grant out there currently right now that pays for water and sewer. So what we need to do the CDBG grant is you have to do an income survey. In order to qualify for CDBG, 51% of the residents that live on the project, not just own homes, but rentals above all the businesses are included in this, have to be LMI. Low to moderate income. If 51% of those people are LMI, then we can proceed with applying for the grant application. So first thing, you have to do a income survey to even see if you qualify for the grant, and then you can move on to apply for the grant. The CDBG grant covers 66% of the project up to $1 million. So the only thing eligible for CDBG would be the water portion of this project and the wastewater portion of this project, which is about $1.1 million if you combine the two together. So we would get 66% of $1.1 million is what we would be eligible for in this grant. So the first step is the income survey. To do the income survey, it's gonna cost roughly around $7,000. We have mailings that we have to put out, flyers that we have to put out, doors that have to be knocked on. Each apartment has to fill out a survey. Now, you don't have to, for those that are worried about an income survey, we don't ask you exactly what you make. We basically, you check a box, if there's one person living here, do you make less than this, or do you make more than this? If there's two people living here, do you make less than this? Yes. So we don't physically take any of the person's name, any information. We don't ask for exactly what you make. It's just basically a yes or no question based on how many people live in that apartment or in that home. If 4 people live in there, do you make less than X, yes or no? So that's basically the survey. So no private information is obtained in this survey. This is really the only option that we have as far as grants for water and sewer that Russ and I can really find out there. So our recommendation would be to do the $7,000 income survey, which would take us about 3 months-ish to complete. And then in 3 months, we'll find out if we meet the 51% LMI, and then we can move on with this project. If we don't meet the 51% LMI, the grant application is essentially dead, and then we're back to the drawing board of either A, cutting the project, or B, revenue bonding the project.
So when we talk about the scope of this project here, so all the apartments between that are, any of the buildings that abut Madison Street
Correct.
would be included. And then basically on that end of the project, the 3 blocks of houses.
Correct. So we kind of did, to see if we were even eligible for this, we went through and talked to all of the property owners already to see how many apartments that were upstairs. So a lot of these downtown areas have 2, 3, 4 apartments up there with people living
And
in
they
them.
each count as one resident.
Yeah, and each apartment accounts for its own residential survey. So a building that has 4 apartments essentially gets 4 surveys, 1 for each apartment. If all 4 of those people are under the LMI, if all 4 of those apartments and the people living in them are under the LMI, that's a good thing for us. So in the survey, the initial survey we did of apartments, we came up with about 60 apartment/homes that we could survey through this grant. And if 51% of those people are under the LMI, then we qualify to move on through the grant application.
3rd Avenue, I believe, was the last one we got the.
Correct. 3rd Avenue was the last CDBG grant we got, kind of the same concept on 3rd Avenue. Every one of those Putnam County housing apartments counted as its own home.
And same with 7th Avenue West.
Are we at a risk of them telling us we can't force them to answer those questions?
Correct, you can't force them to answer those questions, so what we have to do is make sure that 51%, we get more than 51% of the residents to give the survey back, and 51% of that is above LMI.
Usually the State Department Administration that administers the CDBG, we like to get in that 85 to 90% of the residents along the project.
And we've always done.
They don't have a written threshold, but That's typically what we've seen before with Department Administration.
But for a number of these that we've done, we've always done pretty good percentage-wise
Yeah,
as far as
yeah,
participation.
it hasn't
It's
been
always
an
been
issue,
pretty solid.
right.
And I know at the end of it, sometimes you've had to go out and knock on a door or two.
Yep.
Yeah, so
But
what,
still been
yeah,
able to.
what we'll do is we'll send mailers, we'll get addresses for all these apartments, we'll send mailers out to them, we'll send them the form, give them a return envelope to mail it
Yeah.
back in, so there's no cost to them. We'll get a certain percentage of those back, and then there'll be 2 or 3 times where senior staff and myself will
Yeah.
physically knock on doors and just, the biggest question we always get with people is when you say income survey, they think that they're giving us W-2 information, they think they're giving us social security numbers, they think they're giving us all this information. So as we knock on their doors and we explain to them, I just need you to check this box, whether you make above or below that. I don't need your name, I don't need anything, I just need the address. Do you make above or below the amount of people living in here? And then sign the bottom of it.
And that's on the honor system?
Yeah.
That's all that survey is them, you know, we believe what they're telling us.
You're shooting for 80% or more because it probably looks better on the application.
Yeah,
You're
exactly.
a lot more likely to get.
Right, and obviously, you know, to get to the 51% of what you survey, it looks much better to have 85 to 90% than 50% to get to the 51. You know, the more you have, the better it looks, you know, at the Department of Administration.
Have they ever audited those at all?
No, they pretty much take the survey results and our tabulation of everything, and they review it, and never had a problem. You know, they do audit at the end of projects and things like that, and we've never had an issue come up. And, you know, Third Ave was the most recent project we did. Prior to that, Washington Street, the north end of Madison Street. Knock on wood, every time we've done a survey, you've surveyed out.
This
Yeah,
project would
qualified.
be the first project since 2009 where we have not tried for a CDBG grant.
Yeah.
We went with the LRIP grant because you could get 70 to 90% funding with a minimum of 50, and unfortunately, we only got to 50, so.
So our track record's been pretty good.
Yeah, our track.
Yeah, your track
Our track
record's been good,
It's good
and
to
you're
have
doing it
other
early.
departments.
The deadline is February 25 for surveys to be submitted to the Department of Administration. So you're well ahead of the game. That'll give us time to keep being persistent to get that percentage up.
So
And then
if we got this,
Yeah.
as far as the calendar is concerned, with the other grant, we would be talking about doing this project in 2026?
Correct, yeah,
Yeah.
that's what I was just gonna say, to be full transparent on this CDBG grant application. We would not find out, number one, we'd find out if we were 51% right now, then we would apply, those are due in February, they don't award the actual CDBG grants until October of 2025. So this would be a 2026 project. Which falls fine in our LRIP grant, because our LRIP grant has to be done and completed and closed out by June of 2027. So this would work well into into the time frame of the LRIP grant. We just won't be doing this project until 2026 if we even qualified for the 51%.
So we got the LRIP grant, we get this grant, we'll find out where we're at, what it can pay for. Is there any other modifications we can make, stuff that's not covered by grant money, that we could make changes? I mean, the idea is still to do everything within the scope of work that we plan on. But is there any other little adjustments we can make to try to, and I say little, I said, you know, and the question is to see about financially being able to do this.
So we put together, I do have some options to reduce a few blocks on this end or that end to bring costs down to. Waiting to essentially present those at a later meeting. Basically, there's probably not a lot of point of getting into those options until we find out if we essentially qualify for this CDBG grant. So I feel that the CDBG grant is kind of our first step. If we don't get the 51% LMI, then we go to our second step of potentially reducing the project so that it gets back into our original budget. As far as can we reduce a sanitary manhole or take a storm inlet out here or there, yes, but we're probably only saving a few $1,000s on the project, nowhere near bringing it down to where it needs to be.
And because of the fact that we specifically can use the new grant specifically for water and for sanitary sewer, we know one of the things that pushed up the cost of this project on that end of it, on Madison Street, was the fact that there's extra work that has to be done because of the water table, correct?
Correct.
That's all part of that, right? Because it's
Yes.
underground utility work. So it'll help cover some of those costs if we were able to, A, qualify for this grant, receive it. And that pushed up the cost of this project.
Correct.
Yeah, that was the sanitary sewer on the south end because
And that's
of,
eligible to cover some of those costs that
Yep,
the remediation they have to do while they're doing the work, correct?
Yes.
right.
So essentially, running some quick numbers, if you get this, if you are 51%, we apply for the CDBG, we get the CDBG, we would get about $700,000 to $750,000, which was essentially just a little bit less than the total overage of the project. So the CDBG grant will get us right back down to that 2.5, 2.6 million that we were planning on borrowing or financing in the first place.
And as Matt alluded to, Mayor, and we've talked a little bit, our plan is to make a presentation of this entire project again, talk about potentially some savings and then the financial pieces, probably at the meeting of June 26th.
So paying for this, 7,000 is not an issue as far as where it comes from?
It would come from the utilities.
It comes from
Yeah,
utilities.
and it's another piece, if we get it, obviously it pays for itself. If we're just shut out, then, yeah, it's a combined water sewer.
Any more questions? And what's the top end we were set not to exceed how much money to do this?
7,000.
7,000. Any questions?
I'll make a motion, we go ahead, approve going forward with the income survey for Madison Street CBG grant application, not to exceed $7,000.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, we have the motion and second. Is there any more comments, concerns, questions? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Councilmember Weisenbeck.
Yes.
Councilmember Minke.
Yes.
Councilmember Kavanaugh.
Yes.
Councilmember Hooker.
Yes.
Councilmember Weisenbeck. Weisapple.
Voting twice, oh.
Yes. Councilmember Raisler.
Yes.
All six in favor.
Okay, we'll move forward with that. Next, we have discussion possible action regarding Cedar Corporation Construction Engineering Services proposed for 6th Avenue East reconstruction project. Russ?
Yes, this is a follow-up of the design contract you approved last fall for the 6th Avenue East. We left out the construction engineering services at that time because we didn't know whether the 6th Ave project was going to get approved to proceed to construction. So this is the construction services, very similar to previous construction service contracts we've had on all your other projects. That includes construction, staking and layout, coordination with the contractor, construction observation, administration, review of pay requests, and so forth for the project. So covers our services when construction starts on June 10th.
And what's the total work?
19,500.
And so the bid that we got for 192 plus this, and that's everything to total project, or what am I missing?
You got the bid for 190, you got the bid for 193.
Yeah.
You had the design, which was 19,500, and the construction, which is 19,500. So, Cedar Corp's total services are a certain percentage, you paid for half of it in the design and half of it in the construction.
So that brings the project to 232 plus the paving on 7th Avenue a little bit.
Correct, which is
Which
gonna be
is-
about $12,000.
About 244.
244, and then of that 550 that we're gonna borrow, you were estimating that this project was gonna be, what, 250 of it, or?
Well, about 240, it comes right out to 244. Yeah,
Okay,
244 plus the 84 plus the 222 for the pool. That was all right.
okay. Someone like to make a motion concerning the agreement with Cedar Corporation for engineering services for 6th Avenue East reconstruction project?
I'll make a motion to approve the Cedar Corporation Construction Engineering Services proposal for 6th Avenue East reconstruction project not to exceed $19,500.
Second.
There's a motion and second to approve the engineering services contract with Cedar Corp. Any more discussion? Hearing none. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Hooker.
Yes.
Councilmember Raisler.
Yes.
Councilmember Weisenbeck.
Yes.
Councilmember Weisskopf.
Yes.
Councilmember Kavanaugh.
Yes.
Councilmember Menke.
Yes.
All six in favor.
Motion's agreed to. And what are we expecting a start date on that? Have we got?
June 10th.
June 10th? Okay, so now let's go back up to the agenda. We're gonna go back up to the fire department. April report, Chief King.
April, we had 13 calls for the month. The generator project is all completed, tested, in service, so we're back to working again. The fire inspections for the first half are completed in the city. There was 138 businesses inspected, there was 40 violations found. So it sounds like a lot, but it's really not. It's minor lights and extinguishers and nothing major other than 40, so we're sitting good there. And then fundraiser did go well. No issues that I know of, and everything went well. We're still tallying money's still coming in, so it'll be a while. It was a good crowd. So.
Our chicken dinners were up.
Chicken dinners were up, we served just under 1,000 people. That's all I got. Calls are listed there.
So all of those 40 violations, they get a fix-it ticket and they got to come back?
Yeah, they get wrote up and it's all registered. Our system is now on an iPad on the computer system. So the inspector carries an iPad, and then it gets emailed to the businesses. So it says what their violation is, and then it stays in there until it's corrected. But most of it's just minor. Exit light sign will be out, or like minor violations like that, they have until the next inspection, which is typically six months later. So.
Okay.
Jamie, we passed out your annual report.
Oh,
You passed out a row.
forgot about
So,
that,
yeah,
sorry.
that's,
Forgot about that.
This
This
is
just,
this document and report.
Yeah, it's in that package. I usually have it out a month early, it didn't happen this year, but if you just want a page here, the first page is just the rural fire stuff. The breakout of calls on page 4 is all the city calls, 39 calls per year. And then mutual aid stuff shows where we went, helped other cities out. And then the breakdown on the back, it lists each township, which doesn't apply to the city, but I know it's a joint department, so it's one of those things where people like to see how much we go into different areas. So. And then the back page, the very back page is the different categories where we're utilized in fire, rescue, emergency medical services, hazardous conditions. Good intent, that's a question I get almost every year. A good intent call is if somebody calls 911 and all of a sudden they figure out, oh, we don't really have an emergency. So we get paged out, but we don't go anywhere because it gets canceled before we get going. So that's what good intent means. And then false alarms, so, which was down, I think, this year. Usually we'll have a lot more. So yeah, the back page is just the categories. Pages in between are the different places we went. And it's listed out for township and then the city stuff. Just a report we throw together every year that shows what we did.
One piece I would note on the city numbers, and I think I left my report back in my office. But you'll notice a number of the city's 39 are EMS related. And just like you noticed on Jamie's report for April, the city is accounted for. I don't think, probably, maybe one of those might have been in the city. So every EMS call is basically attributed to the city because we run the ambulance service. And so,
Years ago, the rural used to pay the fire guys, but it got to be, the charges were, they used to bill $200. Well, when we were starting to help the EMS so much, the city was losing money because of the pay difference of what actually we were paying the firefighters and actually what the truck fees were. So the city made a deal with the rural just to let them handle the EMS lift assist on the fire side of things, so that the city can just reimburse the guys for their time and the fuel on the truck. So a lot of these calls, they're not broke out, but a lot of the 39 calls, a lot of them calls were EMS assist calls in the rural areas. So then all them EMS calls in the city of Durant.
and frankly, it really doesn't matter, except it did come up, and we'll talk about it later in our discussion with the rural group today of, well, yeah, but you have an awful lot of calls in the city. Well, hold on. A lot of those calls are in the townships related to ambulance.
But since the city fully owns the ambulance service, it shows up on the city's run, because that's where the wages get paid out through. And the fuel, the truck charges go through. I could maybe, if you guys want, on monthly reports, when it says EMS assist, I could maybe put a dash behind that and put city rural.
Sure.
That would break it out monthly for you guys. I have the information when I do the report.
Okay.
Yes.
Any questions on that?
Anything else, Chief?
Pretty basic.
Any other questions from the fire department? Okay, so this is how I would like to do it from here on out with the rest of the fire department. I'm gonna give some background information concerning on how we do emergency services and pay for them. I thought it was a great opportunity, I get to tell a story, so I'll keep it. And then what we're gonna do is go into the closed session to discuss the specific thing. We're talking about negotiating, and then we'll come back and take up the two items that we have on there about negotiations about the regional fire district, and then also into the, about the ordering the new tender vehicle. But to start it out, I'm going to start the conversation and talk about, we do have some new council members, and this is actually a refresher for a lot of people on how things sort of work. And by the way, any of the heads of any of the departments, if I say something incorrectly, feel free, when I get done with your department, if you want to correct that. I'm going to talk about police first. Obviously, we have our own police department here in the city of Durand. We have a chief, and we also have staff, and so on. It's wholly, obviously, run by the budgets of the city of Durand. Obviously, the city of Durand is also covered by the sheriff's department, the state patrol, as we are part of both of those entities. The police department also goes out. We will help in the rural areas as needed. We go out into the townships, especially in emergency situations, needed as calls, and we do that throughout the year, so we always have a good working relationship. The one thing that you notice about this is that you will notice that people say, why isn't the police department offices here at City Hall? Well, we need to go back to the early 1980s, 1980, 81, when they built the new hospital, and of course, the Pepin County decided to consolidate into which is called the Pepin County Government Center. And at the time when the jail was in, which is now Weiss Realty, it was a situation where the city had the police department offices in there, and they were moving up on the hill. And obviously we know that the police department offices are in with the sheriff's department. But everybody signs every bills every month that says we never pay them rent. The reason for that is because when we moved up there with them, we agreed to assume some of the debt. And I can't remember exactly how much it is. There's an agreement that the city of Durand assumed, and I want to say it was like $120,000, $150,000, something like that the city paid for at the time in exchange for a 99-year lease that Pepin County will supply us with office space next to the Sheriff's Department for the Durant Police Department. Correct, Stan?
Correct.
I understand that. And so that, we have a 90, and that lease went into effect sometime in the early 1980s. And so that's the reason why we have the setup that we do on the police department. Everything correct on that?
Yep.
Okay. Talk about ambulance next. The ambulance is a complete operation of the city of Durant. That's when it was talked about earlier about how things work. We make the decisions as far as who are going to be. All of the municipalities that participate, obviously, they're all required to provide ambulance services to their citizens. They contract with us. Those are yearly contracts. And what we do is we charge them per capita. We also charge ourselves, the city, to help come up with the with the ambulance budget, which stands by itself from the standpoint of, we actually don't put tax dollars directly into it.
Correct.
But we do pay our share. The other way that we pay for the ambulance service is obviously the services that we provide. And I know that these numbers might be a little bit different. One time people used to ask me, what does it take to operate the ambulance service? And I said, well, we used to always have about 300 to about 375 calls a year, and it cost us about $375,000 to run it. So it cost us $1,000 a time, really, when it comes down to it, when we go out. Now, we get reimbursed by those through Medicare, Medicaid, private pay, insurance, those types of things. But we always have to balance it out, because we know, especially when it comes to Medicare and Medicaid, we don't get what we charge. They have set amount, it has gone up, correct?
A little bit.
A little bit. But again, we may charge them $800-900 for the call, but we're only going to get $400 or whatever in that. So we have to balance that out to do that. But again, it's specifically a city operation when we contract with those. The one thing we do know, the per capita that we charge is very low. It used to be really low. And what we've had to gradually increase it over the years, obviously we have on-call people. We've been able to do that to make sure that we're properly staffed. Okay? Did I describe how the ambulance works? Okay, let's talk about the fire department. A lot of people in town don't realize we technically have two different fire departments. We have a city fire department and a rural fire department. How the rural fire department came about was sometime in the 1950s. Old Tom Pattison, not young Tom Pattison, who, by the way, died a few years ago, he had a farm out town of Lima, and basically, if you were in a rural area and you had a fire back then, they used to have party lines of telephone that would go up and down the valley. Basically, the party line would get called, and they would say, bring as many milk cans of water as you can. Correct? Then in the mid-1950s, a bunch of people, the Durant City Fire Department's actually been here for 130 some years?
1888.
1888 was the city fire department. There was enough people in the mid-50s who decided that they needed to create a rural fire department. They did. In fact, the first engine that they bought was an IH, International Harvester, because there's a story about it hanging up at the fire hall. I've read the article about this when they got it. And at the time, they were a completely separate group from the standpoint of that they had their own chief, they had their own so on and so forth. Well, over the years, so the fire department, we own the building, we have the same group of firefighters, and they answer both, of course, rural calls and they answer city calls. The one thing that has happened over the years is that we have consolidated a lot of things, including the fact is we now have one leadership group, one chief for both groups. We both must approve it. If somebody goes on a rural fire call, their wages for that call is paid by the rural. If it's in the city, it's paid by the city. And as we know, over the last few years, we've gradually gotten together on a number of other things, including on how we pay for vehicles, so on and so forth. That's something that we're working with the idea of going toward a district. Again, if we go to a district, we're in a situation where it would be a completely new entity. That would be, and what's the name of the intergovernmental agreement? Is it like 6630? Or is that? Am I thinking a different?
I think that's the statute.
Or you put it together, which basically says that we would have one fire department, and we would be a participant along with the other folks that and all the other municipalities that are involved in it. And again, we've already started to share so many different things as far as cost of vehicles, and a number of the costs. We do know that their type of corporation that they have incorporated as a rural department, we cannot join. Our legal counsel has told us that. That's the reason why we need to go to a district if we're going to join up. Now, the same thing I said at the rural fire meeting was very important to say. We have excellent coverage here for our emergency service. If we're talking police, fire, ambulance, all do a great job. The whole thing with the fire department is first do no harm. In other words, we don't want to do anything to hurt our situation to be able to answer fire calls, whether they're in the city or in the rural, and so on and so forth. So where we're at right now is the question is about moving forward with the district. The Rural Fire Board has agreed to move forward. So basically tonight is, the decision is that we're going to move forward with the district. And how that would go is that obviously we need to get lawyers involved, we need to get the actual agreement and negotiate a few things as far as getting into the district, what all comes into it, those types of things, at what cost, and so on and so forth. The other item on the agenda specifically is we're talking about it, and I know there's generally a feeling to say that we would like to go to a district as early as possible. There's some feelings saying, can we do it by the first 2025? Or somewhere close to that. It might, if January and so on and so forth. Because the rural's going to have some own things they got to figure out how that corporation works after they dissolve and how they do that, and then exactly on our end. But we're also talking about buying a vehicle, a tender. Tender, also known as a tanker, because remember I was told if you ask for a tanker, you're going to get an airplane full of water, and so on. And that's a vehicle we're not going to get for 30 months, but we need to decide how we're going to handle this. And there's two ways to go on this, because if we decide if we don't get to a district, again, I don't think we want to get to the district, how it's handled, and then the other part about it is how we handle it when the district, because at that point, the district will be owning that, and we'll just be part of that district. Okay, so there's a little history, a little background. And so what we're going to do tonight is, there's a little negotiation we want to talk. That's for the closed session for the council to talk about, and that's why I'd like to go into closed session to discuss that. Then we will come back out and discuss specifically the two items about the forming of a regional fire district, and the second thing, of course, is ordering that tender. And the things that falls in, like everything else, is that when you're 30 months out from a vehicle, you have to make these decisions, and exactly. There was a meeting today. The chief, also some members of the Rural Fire Board and city administrator, so he's got the background information for us and where we're at. But again, the specific reason for the closed session is because we're going to negotiate. We need to talk a little numbers here, and that's what we're looking to do. Okay. Any question on any of those three subjects? That should take.
So are you looking for standardization?
Okay.